Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with another incredible guest for the Airing It Out series, which we are continuing all throughout the month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October. It's going by real fast, but I'm just so pleased that we can share these incredible experts with all of you and cover up on so many important topics. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the AIRS Foundation for creating this incredible resource for women who are in need of financial support for their breast reconstruction, who otherwise could not afford to get breast reconstruction. And not only that, this is a wonderful platform to find information about breast reconstruction, so breast reconstruction education as well. This is a very difficult time for nonprofits. Breast cancer is happening no matter what. So if you're looking at different organizations to donate to this month and throughout the year, please consider going to airsfoundation.org. So without further ado, I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Melissa Berry. I'm the founder of cancerfashionista.com. I help women look and feel their best throughout breast cancer and beyond. And I am so excited to have now a very dear friend of mine, Lisa Caddy of Philip Kingsley, with me today to talk about hair, which is obviously a hot topic, whether you have breast cancer or not. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. It's we've had good company for the past few weeks, haven't we? So it's like we're old friends.
Old friends, absolutely. So I'm going to give you everyone some background information about Lisa. Lisa Caddy joined Philip Kingsley in 2004. She started her career on the sales team and developing through hard work and immense passion to become a qualified trichologist. And we're going to define that term in a little bit. Lisa is the Philip Kingsley brand ambassador, making regular TV appearances as a presenter on the QVC shopping channel, which we all love. Lisa is also the Philip Kingsley education manager, traveling globally to train our international partners. Lisa is passionate about trichology. After 2 years of intensive study at the Institute of Trichologists, she was awarded with a credit by the board of directors for her outstanding work. Lisa then studied for a further 2 years to obtain her membership of the Institute of Trichologists. She is also a member of the Royal Society of Public Health. So let's just say you know a thing or two about hair.
I sound quite good on paper.
Oh, you're way too humble. You're way too humble. So let's just take it from the top. You know, because I know the word trichology was new to me not that long ago. So can you tell us exactly what is trichology?
Yeah, sure. So trichology is actually a branch of dermatology. So trichology is a holistic approach to hair care, where a dermatologist would look at your skin as a whole. A trichologist looks at your scalp and your hair. So having a holistic approach, you know, we have private consultations with our clients, and we talk to our clients whether they've got issues with hair loss, dark conditions, or whether they have cosmetic issues with their hair. And so we talk with them at length about their family history, their medication, their lifestyle, because all of those things have a huge bearing on your hair and scalp health. And so it is the study of the science of hair and scalp.
Amazing. Thank you for just sort of creating a foundation for us. What I would love to know is how and why did you decide to become a trichologist in the first place?
Well, by default, as I guess most people's careers start. So I always wanted to be a hairdresser when I was a teenager, but my parents said, no, you're never going to earn any money being a hairdresser. So that was kind of the end of that dream. And so I found my way into sales, into retail, and I joined Philip Kingsley on the sales team. I was already using the products, loved the products. And Philip Kingsley, he's sadly no longer with us, but he may have seen some kind of potential in me at some point and said, you know what, I think you'd make a good trichologist. So he was generous enough to put me through the trichology course and do my qualification. And so I didn't find my true calling until I was 46. So quite late in life, but it's opened up a whole new world.
I love that. I feel like there's so many of us women out there that kind of find this new thing at this middle, I hate using the term middle age, but it's true. So kudos to you. And then did you have any of your own personal hair issues at one point?
I absolutely did. And so, I mean, I've suffered from hair loss, not from an early age, but probably, I think I always had really fine hair, and it was never my favorite part of me. I always thought, do you know, if there's one thing I could change about myself, it would be my hair. I dreamed to have long and thick and full hair. But it wasn't until probably my 40s that I was starting to have hair loss. And that started to come about from stress, from a bereavement, and it kind of escalated. And so I joined Philip Kingsley at that point. I was in the right place at the right time. So I was surrounded by people who could give me the best help and really help me on my hair journey. And from that moment, when I really started to pay a lot more attention to my hair, to the products I was using, to my general health, to my diet, that was when my hair really started to improve. And all of my life, I'd thought, I'm just never going to have the hair that I want. And now it's just not something I worry about. I can still do with a bit more hair, but it's just not anything that I worry about anymore.
Of course. Listen, we always, you know, like my mother always said, we always want what we don't have. We have straight hair, we want curly hair, we want straight hair. But thank you for sharing. And it's like, I know also, obviously, stress has such a big impact on our hair. I know sometimes when I'm going through a difficult time, breast cancer or not, like we notice there's, you know, hair in the drain in the shower, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So I'm sure you can attest to that stress can really take a toll.
Oh, it's so distressing when you see hair going down the shower drain. It's kind of stomach churning. And I think for most people, because they don't know why it's happening, the first thing they imagine is, well, if this carries on at this rate, I'm going to lose all of my hair. I think that's the biggest concern for most people. Am I going to go bald? And so I totally understand how distressing it is. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of us that are watching are either about to start chemotherapy treatment, or they're in the middle of it, or maybe at the end, or have completed it. Are there any steps that one can take to prepare the hair or the scalp before you even lose it due to chemotherapy?
That's such a good question. And I think it's probably one of the first things on people's minds when they're approaching starting chemotherapy. Is there anything I can do, first of all, to stop that hair loss happening? Well, unfortunately, hair loss is inevitable for most people when they're going through chemotherapy, to different degrees and different levels. But it is important to remember that that hair loss is temporary, again, for most people, and there will be a time when the hair regrows. So you want to set things in place for when that time happens. And so I think, first of all, making sure that your scalp is really healthy. It's really easy to neglect the scalp. It's hidden under this hair for the most part, and we forget about it. But that scalp will be exposed when you lose hair. And so it's good to have it in good shape. So addressing any dandruff or flaky scalp issues is really important. Making sure your scalp is really clean and healthy. And also maximizing your diet. I guess if you consider that going through chemotherapy, you might not, your appetite might go, you might not feel like eating very well. And, you know, your diet is really important when it comes to hair. So kind of giving that a boost and maximizing it before that happens, making sure you eat really healthily, you eat inclusively, plenty of protein in your diet, and you just get as much nutrition as you can often mean that when your hair's ready to recover and come back, that you're in the best possible place for that to happen.
Absolutely. And like, let's say you're gonna be starting treatment soon. Would you recommend, how frequently should we be washing our hair? I guess whether you're about to start treatment or not, what is the healthiest regime?
So this is probably not what most people believe or have heard of or understand, but shampooing frequently is a really good thing for your scalp and your hair. And I think we've been conditioned and told for years and years that shampooing is a bad thing. It can cause hair loss. It will dry your hair out. And you should let your natural scalp oils kind of be produced, when actually the reverse is true. So when you shampoo your scalp, you get rid of dead skin cells and bacteria and oil and sweat, and you just have a much healthier, cleaner scalp environment. And, you know, considering your scalp is the bedrock of hair growth, your hair follicles are a function of the skin. And so they rely, your follicle function really relies on that layer of skin being really healthy, no inflammation, no scaling, no bacteria, and then you'll grow the best hair that you can. So long story short, shampooing frequently is actually a really good thing.
Good to know. Well, thank you for your insight. Now, I know a lot of women are nervous about how their hair is going to grow back after chemotherapy. It's one of those unknowns until you actually go through it. And I know there's so many different outcomes. Would you say that your hair tends to grow back differently after chemotherapy? If so, why? And is there anything that you can do to prevent the change?
So in my experience and seeing my clients in clinic, I'm talking to lots of people who've been through chemotherapy, and family members of my own as well have report different things when their hair's recovering. But for the most part, I think people's hair does come back differently. A lot of women say, hang on, my hair's now curly and it used to be straight, or it used to be straight and now it's curly, whichever way. But that is a temporary thing. So bearing in mind, chemotherapy is a powerful drug. It changes so much in your body, and it temporarily changes the shape of your hair follicle, or it changes something about your hair follicle. So when the hair regrows, it can come out of the hair follicle a different way and a different shape. But for most people, within around 12 months of chemo finishing, their hair should start to return back to normal. So there's nothing you can really stop that change from happening. But for example, if your hair has come back a completely different texture than you're ever used to, you don't know how to style it. How do you deal with curly hair used to be straight? And so it's kind of rediscovering hair care again, and the styling products, and dealing and managing with your hair in a different way. But I would say for the most part, lots of women feel the condition of their hair is different. So it might come back much more dry or brittle, or be very wispy when it first returns. So using something like our elasticizer, so Philip Kings's elasticizer, just a hero.
I love that. Don't ever stop making that. I'm not even getting paid to say that. It is an incredible, it really is, like, I wish I had known about it sooner. It really is a beautiful product that really, really, really works.
Yeah, it's such an incredible, it's a hair mask, and it's just, I mean, we've had this product for over 45 years. It's such a hero, just makes the hair very supple, very manageable, nice and shiny. So even if you haven't got a lot of hair, it makes the most of the hair that you have, and it makes you feel better about your hair. It's just such a wonderful product. So so taking care of the hair that you have is really important at that time.
And would you say, for most of the women that you've worked with, what is the most common type of regrowth? Does it come back curlier, or does it come back like more fine? Like, what would you say is the percentage, like most common type of change?
I think most people tell me their hair is coming back very slowly, and it's coming back very wispy, very fine, and they're quite nervous about the fragility of their hair. And so, how do I take care of it when it's so short, it's so fine, it feels fragile? And so that's probably thing in the early stages. But then when hair really gets a spurt on, when it really starts to grow, and it's what we call terminal hair again, which is what this is, that's when they can start to see the textures change in it, because I think that growth is quite hindered in the beginning. It's quite slow, but it does get there eventually.
I know, thank you for that. I know from my own personal experience, and if this helps with anyone out there, oh my gosh, I'm a beauty person. I just always loved makeup and hair, and it was very traumatic for me to lose my hair. And it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. I enjoyed all the different stages of the regrowth. I just did my best to embrace each style. And for me, I remember it did come back initially very wispy, like baby fine, and then it got very kinky. And I'm like, whose hair is this, and how do I do it? And I remember going to my hairstylist, and I think it's really important, and this is a sidebar from my own personal experience, that you want to have a good hairstylist who you can work with through all the different stages. So if it's growing out really kinky, maybe there's a way for your hairstylist to cut it so that it's like a cool silhouette, it's a cool shape, and you kind of work with it through the different stages. And I'm sure you probably agree with that little strategy.
And I think as well, we're talking about, what are the things that women kind of struggle with as well with this process of losing hair. I think that that psychological acceptance. I mean, I haven't been through it, but obviously you have, Melissa, and that kind of acceptance that this is going to happen. It must also almost be quite daunting waiting for it to happen, and then Absolutely. That moment.
Absolutely. I actually remember that very moment. I asked my doctor, when will I start to lose my hair? And they can't tell you exactly, but based on the treatment and the history of other patients, I had like a window, and I did a really short pixie cut in advance of my hair being falling out. And again, this is everyone handles it differently, but for me, I just wanted to sort of take control, and I did a really short pixie cup. And I remember my hairstylist was like, Melissa, why didn't we do this sooner? Like, everyone loved it. I don't know how, if you Demi Moore and Ghost, it was very much like that Demi
Yes.
Moore. I loved it. But then I remember it was before I actually did that cut, there was a specific day. I literally went like this, and it was just like, it just came out. It was blowing in the wind, and I thought, oh my God, here we go. So there's only so much you could do to prepare for that moment, but I think you do the best that you can, and just knowing that there are experts like you, and there are other women that have gone through the process, and it does grow back. It takes time, but it does, and it is a process, but it does grow back.
Absolutely. That's just what you have to hold in mind, isn't it? That this is temporary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I always wondered about this one too. Is there a chance that all of your hair can come back gray after chemotherapy? And if so, what is the reason that your hair can come back gray after chemo treatment?
So I do talk to lots of clients. It's funny because lots of us color our hair. So lots of my clients who I've known pre-chemo may well have been coloring their hair and I didn't know, and they were fully gray anyway. But I see them post-chemo and they've got completely gray hair. And I don't want to say, wow, what happened? But so for some people, it's just that actually their hair was fully gray anyway. Maybe they hadn't realized it because they've been coloring it for such a long time.
Okay.
But I do think if that does happen, and I can't kind of put my finger on an actual process that happens as to why hair would go grey, but as I said, chemotherapy is such a powerful drug. It changes a lot in your body, and I guess it's quite reasonable to think that chemotherapy can switch off melanin production. So basically, your hair is the color it is because your hair follicle is producing something called melanin, and it happens inside the base of the hair follicle. Melanin is the pigmentation that makes your hair dark brown, or it makes it black, or it makes it blonde. And the onset of natural graying is largely predetermined. So you kind of look at mum or dad and think, well, I'm going to start to go grey by the time I'm 30. But there's nothing to say that natural switch off of melanin production can't be triggered by chemotherapy. So I think it's very reasonable to think it might well be. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. Because I know some women in my community where it's come back gray and they were not, and then they embrace it. They and there's a whole, it's funny, like on Instagram, there's a whole like movement of women that have completely got, and it's quite beautiful. It could be very chic.
Oh, completely. And I think for some women who've been coloring their hair for years and years and want to get out of that, they know they're grey, they want to get out of that cycle of dyeing their hair, but think, oh, I can't cope with the inches of regrowth that happen.
Exactly.
So that might be a time to say, here's that big change.
Yeah, and it's funny. We had a great conversation with Jillian of Beautiful Self. She's a makeup artist and a breast cancer thriver, and we were sort of talking about how it's just easier to embrace the change, whether it's your change in hair, change in skin, and to kind of have fun with it and go with it, than to try and go against and trying to keep looking like how you did before treatment. So that's just a little side note. What would you say are the biggest struggles that women have in regards to their hair loss and cancer treatment?
Well, I think first of all is the realization that hair is probably going to go, and it's struggling with that identity crisis almost, that you look completely different, along with the fact that eyebrows might go and eyelashes might go. That completely changes how you look when you see yourself in the mirror. So I think that's a big deal. That's a big part of it. We can't underestimate the psychological impact that it has. But I think from a kind of practical perspective, when you're losing your hair or going through chemotherapy, the scalp issues are actually probably the most prominent thing that people say to me is, I never expected my scalp to be really itchy while I'm losing my hair, and very sensitive during chemotherapy, have to use very mild and gentle products. So, all of that thrown into the mix when you're already struggling with chemotherapy is almost the final blow. I think for some people, it's just another thing to deal with. So yes, it can be the soreness of the scalp, the itchiness of the scalp when the hair loss is happening alongside the psychological impact as well.
Wow. Now, is there anything you could do? I didn't expect it. And these are, again, the things that your doctor doesn't necessarily tell you because they're focused on saving your life. They're focused on, the main, symptoms, nausea, headaches, lack of sleep. They're not like necessarily saying, oh, by the way, your scalp is going to be really itchy. So thank you, so much for sharing your expertise with us. And me being a thriver and having gone through it, I just remember didn't last very long, but when my hair was initially falling out, I remember thinking, it was to the point where I actually couldn't wait to just shave it off because it was so incredibly itchy. Is there anything that you can do, or do you guys have any products that are safe to use when you're having that initial, oh my God, I can't take it anymore?
Yeah, and during that time as well, it's important you don't use lots of things that are highly perfumed or fragranced because you're already very sensitive. But if your scalp is itchy or it's flaky and you want to calm it down, I really love this. So it's the scalp toner, which is almost like, I describe it like just very cooling lotion. So if you're itchy or sensitive, it's not going to cause any irritation. In fact, it's going to soothe the scalp. It's going to calm it. Just heals the skin, and it makes your scalp feel so much more comfortable. And it's a water-based solution. No high fragrance in it or anything like that. So very gentle and calming.
So how do you
just nice.
Literally you just put it on like you would lotion?
Well, I think if you've still got hair, it's easy to apply. It has a nozzle, but if you haven't, then your skin and scalp is very different. So you can actually kind of squeeze it onto a cotton wool ball or cotton wool pad and just dab that onto your scalp. And you can use that as many times a day as you want to. But I think, still shampooing your scalp is really important even when you don't have any hair. And I think because we believe that when we're shampooing, we're cleaning our hair. Well, we're not really. When we're shampooing, we're cleaning our scalp.
And are you opening up the hair follicles too? And just it's sort of like washing your face, really, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of an extension of your face. So still treat your scalp. Don't neglect your scalp. Still treat it like you had hair, probably even better than when you had hair. And it's also when you lose your hair, your scalp is exposed. So if you're in the summer months, it's easy to forget that actually you're going to get some sunburn if your scalp is exposed. So it's important that you do cover the scalp up if you have lost a significant amount of hair.
Makes sense. And just I remember stumbling upon this idea when it was so itchy. And again, something your doctor doesn't tell you. I found using a satin pillowcase, and I still use a satin pillowcase because what I learned was that the cotton weft can really snag your hair and be really uncomfortable. Do you agree with the satin pillowcase theory? Does that help?
Well, you're not the first person to say that to me, and I hadn't thought about using a satin pillowcase when you're going through treatment, but it absolutely makes sense. It's so much more comfortable on the skin and because cotton can be quite rough. So, but even people not going through chemotherapy or not have hair loss actually still use a satin or a silk pillowcase because they feel the hair is less messy when they wake up in the morning.
Yes.
So I think for lots of reasons it's going to be nicer. Yeah,
and you feel kind of, it makes you feel kind of luxurious and special. So for those of you that you have friends or family, but like, what should I get you? Get me some satin pillowcases.
Great idea. Love it.
So we touched upon it very slightly earlier. How is diet, nutrition, and hydration connected to hair and scalp health? And what are some of the foods or supplements or water intake that can help with the whole process?
So I think it is a surprise to some people that actually food has anything to do with your hair or your scalp, but it's so influential. So first of all, the reason your diet will impact your hair is because your hair cells are your body's second fastest dividing cells. So they're dividing really fast, really quickly. That's why actually your hair cells are affected when you're having chemotherapy, because that chemotherapy targets fast dividing cells, which cancer cells are, and hair cells are also fast dividing, so they get caught in the crossfire. Because they're fast dividing cells, they demand a lot of energy, and that energy comes in the form of food. And so it's really important that where you can and where you have an appetite, you eat really well and you eat enough calories. Some of the rules that I ask my clients to follow, even when they're not going through treatment when it comes to diet, is that they eat regularly. So they eat at least every 4 hours. And if lunch and dinner are 6 hours apart, you need to have a snack in between. that's going to provide some energy for your hair cells. You need to make sure you eat a really good protein-rich diet, because this is all made of protein. So you have the best quality hair, the best conditioned hair if you're eating a good protein-rich diet. You're not meal skipping. You're not cutting out any food groups to try and kind of give yourself a health kick. Your body needs protein, complex carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables, and lots of water. So hydration is really important. Your skin can really dry out during chemo, and your scalp is the same. Even your hair shaft has a water content, so it's important that you keep yourself hydrated. So there is a big connection, and I think eating as well as is expected, and possibly can even during chemotherapy, will set you in good stead for really good hair recovery. And if your diet's not great, it can hinder recovery in some people as well. So it's good to be really switched on with what you're eating and how
whether you're going through treatment or not. It sounds like a proper diet and plenty of hydration is going to help the look and feel of your hair regardless. Are there any supplements? And I just want to say, obviously, you need to check with your doctor. This is not medical advice, but what supplements would you recommend to help with hair regrowth and general health?
So what I would say is, with chemotherapy induced hair loss, lots of people feel like they want to do something. I need to take something. I need to use something to encourage my hair to grow back more quickly. You don't really need anything, because your hair will naturally regrow. But I totally understand that it's having that sense of control, helping the hair growth along, wanting to do something. So supplements can be beneficial. They're not the answer for everything, and they are exactly supplements. So they supplement a good diet. They're not a substitute for a good diet. But I do think it's a good idea to give your diet a boost with something that is formulated for hair. So have a look for a hair, maybe a hair and nail supplement, or just hair supplement. At Philip Kingsley, we have one in our trichotherapy range, which is called Tricho Complex. And it is a great supplement, because we as trichologists see hair loss on a daily basis. We know the kind of nutritional deficiencies which can cause hair loss. And we do lots of blood testing for our clients as well. So we can often pinpoint their nutritional status and which factors are causing problems. And so we formulated Tricho Complex, and we put every vitamin and mineral that hair really relies on into Tricho Complex in all the right quantities. So the hard work is done for you. You can take Tricho Complex once or twice a day, and it just tops up your levels of things like your iron and your B12 and your vitamin D, all the things that we know are really vital for hair growth. So a good hair vitamin and mineral can just top you up for a while.
Great. So good to know. Because sometimes I think, especially now, everyone's really focused on, there's so many great vitamins, almost like to a fault. But I think it's good to, incorporate the ones, especially when you're, again, check with your doctor. But if you're going through treatment and you're losing your hair, or it's after treatment and you're trying to get your hair healthy again, to find a supplement that is good for the hair and the nails. How soon? This is a really good question that I always get, and I'm never sure exactly the answer. I know, and again, I was treated 7 years ago, and things do change. How soon after your hair grows back can you start to color it?
I think for the most part, we would say when you've got some decent growth, because if you're going to have some chemical anywhere near your scalp, you want the hair to be a decent length. So I would say hair should grow at least 3 inches. So that might be a good 6 months after you finished your chemo. So when you've got that good growth, then you can talk to your hairdresser, make sure your hairdresser knows what you've been through, understands your situation, and they are very considerate when they're going to color your hair. Do a patch test to make sure that there's no extra sensitivity there. You don't want your scalp to be sensitive in any way before you start to have your color. But I know lots of women are really keen to kind of start looking back the way they were. So but I would say, and actually as well, if that hair isn't recovering as well as expected, if it still remains very fine, very brittle, very wispy, really think about waiting quite a bit longer until you've got some decent length and good growth, good strong growth before you do that chemical process. That
makes sense. So even if your grays are showing or whatever, it's better to just make that initial investment up front and wait it out for your hair to get nice and strong, and then you can have fun again. Now, is there anything that you can do to make your hair go back to normal faster post chemotherapy? For example, if your hair becomes coarse and curly. So is there anything you could do to yeah, I guess we were hoping you'd have some magic pill that we
I know.
hair, you know.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately with that one, I think it is a bit of a waiting game, because it will happen for the most part. It will generally return to normal. So there isn't anything magic to help it return to normal. It's just that manageability factor, I think. If you're not used to having curly hair and it was straight before, what do you do with it? How do you style curly hair? Go to your hairdresser, seek some advice. They know how to style curly hair. But if your hair is a different texture and you're not quite enjoying it, have a look at elasticizer, because that can really make your hair much more manageable, and a lot less hard work, a lot less effort. So you'll be happy with your curls even if you're not used to them.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I gotta tell you, I always had like straight and baby fine hair. When it grew back kind of curly, I panicked, but then I was like, all right, when I was little, I always wanted curly hair. So, you know, sometimes it's better just to embrace it, and then, you know, eventually your hair just get back to its normal state. But in the meantime, also, I believe the styling products are really great that you can experiment with. Maybe you don't usually use mousse or gel, and also hair accessories are so much fun. I remember just getting like glittery bobby pins and just, you know, tucking the funny awkward ends behind and just creating a different silhouette. And sometimes I think you can just experiment and have fun.
Oh, I think short hair can look so cute on lots of people and really sexy as well. And I just
Absolutely.
think, you know, most of us don't want to cut, if we've got longer hair, we don't want to cut it short to see whether it suits us or not. So at least that is a time when you could just play around with things and make it fun.
For sure, for sure. And I know we touched upon this a little bit before, but as far as scalp health for optimal regrowth, we talked about supplements. We talked about the elasticizer. Is there anything else that we could do just to keep the scalp really healthy? Like, how often should we be washing how often should we be shampooing? Is there a methodology there?
I would still say shampoo daily, because we're still going to be producing sweat
Mm.
and oil, especially if you are working out, if you're doing some exercise. There's still going to be bacteria on the scalp and dead skin cells, so still treat it the same. So give it a nice gentle shampoo. A couple of things you can use. So actually, if your scalp is still sensitive after you finish treatment, then we have something called no scent, no color shampoo and conditioner, which
Ooh.
is it's just such a beautiful range, because it was actually formulated by Philip when his wife went through breast cancer, actually. So it's free from color and fragrance and parabens and sodium lauryl sulfate. It's a really, really gentle shampoo and conditioner. Obviously, it's not a shampoo that's going to make hair grow back. No shampoo does that, but it just treats your scalp really nicely. And when your hair does grow back, it is beautiful on the hair as well. So it is still important to shampoo, and shampoo with a proper shampoo product, something very gentle. If you think, I still want to do more, I want to stimulate some hair growth, I want to get my hair journey back on track as soon as I can, providing your scalp feels okay, you can use some stimulating products. So we've got two in our trichotherapy range. We've got stimulating scalp toner and stimulating scalp mask. They are just little products which can optimize your hair and scalp while you're on your journey. So if they're stimulating products, generally what they do is help to encourage the blood supply to the hair follicles. So
Wow.
they're gently tingly, nice and menthol, leave your scalp in tip-top condition.
It must feel
And
kind of good, especially for those with the itchy, right? With the itchy scalp, it's probably refreshing.
absolutely really refreshing, and you feel like you're helping your hair along on its way. So they're really nice to use.
That's awesome. And is there any other products or suggestions as far as scalp care when you have no hair?
As far as scalp when you have no hair, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. Are there any
Yeah.
other products besides the one that you talked about that you are best to use on your scalp, or any other, anything else that we should be doing to take care of our scalp when we have no hair?
Yeah, so I would say if your scalp isn't oversensitive, then it's nice to use an exfoliating scalp mask. So we're all used to using face masks on our face, but we forget about our scalp. And so it's good to do a gentle exfoliation. It removes dead skin cells, lets your skin breathe, keeps your skin nice and supple. So have a look at our range. We have a few different scalp masks. We have an exfoliating one. We have a flaky, itchy scalp mask. We also have a soothing scalp mask, and that's really good if your scalp is feeling irritated or stressed. It's got lots of aloe vera in it, so it's really nice and gentle. So have a look at our scalp mask range. They are the products which will get your hair ready, your hair follicles ready for when your hair's about to grow. So really good to take care of it.
That's really great. And you know, one interesting fact that I've learned by speaking with you, and it's funny, like the light bulb went off. It's really, taking care of our scalp is really an extension of our face. So when you talk about, you know, cleansing, exfoliating, you know, it's a lot of it is just like an extension of our face. So just to take the mystique out of it, it's, you know, if you use your common sense in that way, especially when you don't have any hair and you're not sure, think about how you would take care of your face. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And that's why actually some of our products, you kind of think, oh, that sounds like a face product. So toners for your scalp, it's how you would use a toner on your face.
Right.
Face mask, we use scalp masks. So yeah, so there's lots of similarities. There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's really great. Really good to, this is so, I mean, it's funny, you know, I think growing up, you know, we're so focused on the hairstyling and, you know, the cut. And then I think when you lose your hair, then you start to, you know, learn more about the scalp and taking care of yourself from the inside out to have beautiful hair. So this is a really great learning.
Oh, completely. And I think, you know, looking after yourself from the inside will show on the outside. You know, when you're eating well, when you're drinking lots of water, you feel your skin is brighter, you feel there's more clarity. And the same will happen with your hair as well. Your hair's a really good barometer of your general health. Your hair will tell you how you're feeling, I think, before most things.
Stress to, you know, your diet, it kind of can't hide the truth, right? When you see the hair falling out or it's breaking. Now, how do you know if you need to see a trichologist, and what is the best way to find one in your area, since we all can't, unfortunately, visit you there?
I know. So if we were talking about alone, just chemotherapy-induced hair loss, hang on, you know, am I going to need to see a trichologist? For the most part, you won't need to. The expectation is hair will recover. I would say if within that 12-month period, if your hair isn't really recovering, if it's staying in that place of being very short, very slow growth, very wispy and brittle, or your scalp condition is uncomfortable, if it's sensitive, if it's very flaky, you might need some extra expertise. So I would definitely seek the advice of a trichologist at that point. But otherwise, you know, hair loss outside of chemotherapy induced, how do you know if you need to see a trichologist? Well, there are lots of different reasons for hair loss, lots of different causes, and different hair loss conditions can mimic each other. So it can be hard to self-diagnose, and they can overlap. You can have more than one hair loss condition, so it can get very complicated. And I would say, you know, there are some temporary hair loss conditions. So I would say if within 3 to 4 months, if you've been noticing hair loss and within 3 to 4 months it hasn't got any better or it's actually getting worse, I would definitely seek the advice of a trichologist at that point.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your insight. And like I always say, I could talk to you about hair all day. I mean, this is amazing, but I feel like we've covered off on so many important facts. And just to sort of recap, you know, take care of your scalp as though you take care of your face. You know, embrace the curly hair, the gray hair, the straight hair. Don't be in a rush to bring it back to how it used to look before, even though that's our tendency as women. And so many other great tips. We really appreciate you. And thank you for joining us today. And I'm sure we'll have you back at some point. And I also really want to thank the AiRing Foundation for creating this incredible platform and the series called Airing It Out. And for those of you that are looking for more information about breast reconstruction, if you're getting ready to have your surgery, this is a great resource. And for those of you that are watching that are having financial issues, the AiRing Foundation is there for you. You can go to their website at any time to apply for a grant, and that is airingfoundation.org. And especially now during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, if you're looking to donate to a beautiful, worthy cause, please consider the AiRing Foundation. So thank you, Lisa, again for joining us. I hope all of you out there, I hope you found this to be helpful, and we hope to speak with you again very soon.